All right, write an equation to represent the following graph. So I can go ahead and see that my y-intercept is here where we cross the y-axis. And where we cross the y-axis is at 1. Okay, so that's our y-intercept. So that is our equation, or that's our y, going to be our b part of the equation. I can tell this is non-proportional because it doesn't go through the origin. So the equation that I should be using is y equals mx plus b. My y-intercept is b, so I'm going to have y is equal to something times x plus 1. So now I just need to find my rate of change. To find our rate of change, we're going to make an xy table, and we're going to use perfect points. So I have a point here at 0, 1. And then I have another point here at 2, negative 2. And we'll use that, 2, negative 2. Okay? So to go from 1 to negative 2, I subtract 3. To go from 0 to 2, I add 2. Change in y over change in x, that's negative 3 over 2. So we have negative 3 halves is our slope. And there's our equation. So which equation represents the relationship between the x and y values in the table? So real quick, first thing I'm going to do is check to see if it's proportional or non-proportional. So I'm going to divide the y by the x. Negative 11 divided by negative 1 is 11. 1 divided by 1 is 1. So it doesn't get me the same number, so it is non-proportional. So I'm going to need to find my change in y over change in x. To go from negative 11 to positive 1, that's plus 12. To go from 1 to 13 is plus 12, and 13 to 25 is plus 12. To go from negative 1 to positive 1, I add 2. Positive 1 to 3, I add 2. And 3 to 5, I add 2. So change in y over change in x. 12 divided by 2, that gets me 6. So my rate of change is 6. The only answer choice that would make sense is H. Now, one thing I want to mention is if you ever get different numbers for your change in y and change in x, that just means you need to double check to see if they simplify to the same thing. If they simplify to the same thing, it doesn't matter that they're a little bit different to begin with. I can still solve for the y-intercept. Solve for the rate of change, excuse me. So here I can see that 0 is not in the table. So let's say I had two equations that had 6 as the slope. I'd have to solve for the y-intercept. So I'm going to plug in what I do know. We know y is equal to 6x plus b. But currently, there's too many variables. I can't solve with 3 different variables. So what I would do is I would plug in a point. Now, most of you don't like dealing with negatives, so I would pick the first positive point. So that's a 1 for the y value and a 1 for the x value. So I would say 1 is equal to 6 times 1 plus b. Well, 6 times 1 is 6 plus b, so I'd subtract 6 from both sides. That's solving an equation like you did in 6th grade. And negative 5 is equal to b. Well, that one had negative 5 as the y-intercept. So Wednesday Addams is tracking the number of bats that fly past the Addams family mansion each hour. If she notices that 200 bats fly by in 4 hours, select 3 representations that Wednesday could use to make predictions about the number of bats that fly past the mansion in X hours. There is a typo on this. It's down here. It should say 125, not 225. So the first thing I need to do is find my rate of change. So we have 200 bats in 4 hours. Remember, hours is always going to be x. Time is always x, so that would make the bats y. You can also see down here in the tables, the first row is hours, so that's x, y. To find our rate of change, it's always going to be y over x, so 200 over 4, which that will simplify to 50. So 50 for 1, because I divided both of those by 4. So our k is going to be 50. So I need to make sure that we are multiplying by 50. I didn't tell you any kind of starting point. I didn't say that we started with like 300 bats have flown out. So I know this is proportional. So when I can look at the equations, I can cross the non-proportional ones off. And we just said that our rate of change is 50. So the equation should be the 50. So now we need to find for the table and the graph. So here I can see I have a perfect point at 150. That means I rise 50 and I run over 1 if I pay attention to the scale. So we're rise over run. That would be 50 over 1. So this graph would make sense. Okay, so I have an equation. I have a graph. Now I need to find a matching table. So 50 divided by 0.5 is 25. Well, we wanted our K value to be 50, so this one does not work. 30 divided by 0.5 is 15, does not work. 25 divided by 0.5 is indeed 50. 75 divided by 1.5 is 50. And 125 divided by 2.5 is 50. So our last table would work. Again, you need to start by finding your K value and then find the things that match your rate of change. Number 4, Pugsley Addams uses the same amount of explosive potion each week for his latest experiments. The equation below shows the amount of potion Y is left in his lab after X weeks. Which statement best describes Pugsley Addams' potion supply? From a beginning supply. So here we have non-proportional, so this is Y is equal to mx plus B. B is our y-intercept or our starting point. Okay, that's what we think of when we think of B. And M is going to be the rate of change or your slope. So B is our starting point because it's the y-intercept. So saying from a beginning supply of 45, that's starting out pretty well. Whereas B says from a beginning supply of 3. No, we started at 45. From a beginning supply of 3, no. From a beginning supply of 45, yes. So we're between A and B. Pugsley uses 3 vials of potion per week, or he brews. That means he's making 3 vials of potion per week. Because this is negative, it means that I'm using, so answer choice A makes the most sense. Number 5 says write an equation from the graph. So anytime we make an equation, we're going to start with an XY table. I have a perfect point here, which inevitably will actually be our y-intercept at 0, 4. And I have another perfect point here at 6, 0. Notice that we are counting by 2s here. You need to pay attention to your scale. So from 4 to 0, that's minus 4. From 0 to 6, that's plus 6. Change in y over change in x. Negative 4 over 6, that simplifies when I divide them both by 2 to negative 2/3. So that is your m. We know our y-intercept is 4 because this is where it crosses the y-axis. This is non-proportional because we don't go through 0, 0. So we can write it as y is equal to negative 2/3 x plus 4. Number 6, Pugsley Addams eats 6,000 grams of Goulberry jam in a 30-day period. Write an equation that describes how many grams of Goulberry jam that Pugsley eats in X days. First thing we need to do is decide if this is proportional or non-proportional. I didn't tell you any kind of starting point, so we have to assume that this is proportional. No starting point. So we're going to use the equation y equals kx. So to find our k value, we're going to do y divided by x. Time is always independent. It's always x. So I'm going to be doing 6,000 divided by 30. Well, I can cancel a 0 for each of those. So now I have 600 divided by 3, which is 200. So that's our k. So y is equal to 200x would be the equation that represents what Pugsley is eating. So number 7, a recipe for Morticia Addams' Elegant Midnight Smoothies uses 1 1/4 cups of batberry juice for every 1/2 cup of spider silk yogurt. Let y represent the number of cups of juice and x represent the number of cups of yogurt. Okay, so y is juice, so we're going to do the juice over the yogurt. Again, I didn't tell you any kind of starting point, so we know this is a proportional graph. So since it's a proportional graph, I can go ahead and put a point at 0, 0. Okay, so we have a point at 0, 0. And now we can go ahead and compare. So juice is 1 1/4, which I'm actually going to make 5/4. That's 5/4 cups, because if I change 1 1/4 to a mixed number, that's 5/4. So 5/4 over the 1/2 of yogurt. We know that fraction bars mean division. So this is really 5/4 divided by 1/2. So we're going to follow keep change lips. So this is 5/4 times 2 over 1. I can divide both 4 and 2 by 2. So 4 divided by 2 is 2. 2 divided by 2 is 1. This is just me simplifying. So then 1 times 5 is 5. 2 times 1 is 2. So this is our k. So I need to write an equation that is y is equal to 5 halves x. And we always, when we're graphing, we follow rise over run. So that means I'm going to rise 5, I'm going to go up 5, and I'm going to run 2. So from 0, 0, because it's proportional, we're going to rise 5. So I go up 5, and then we are going to run 2, and I can put a point there. Rise over run. And then I could do it again. I can go up another 5, rise 5, and then we can run 2 more. And then I would have a point at 410. Now, one thing I want us to be very aware of is we do not want to be graphing anything that's not a perfect point. If it's halfway in the middle between a graph, you don't want to plot it. You only want to plot the ones that are perfectly on the cross sections of your graph. And then you can connect the points to create your line. So there's our line. Okay, Gomez Addams is designing and selling custom haunted portraits. He spends $50 on supplies to get started and sells each portrait for $15. Which table represents the total amount of money that Gomez makes after selling X portraits? So if he spends $50, that means at 0 portraits, he should be at -50 because we haven't made anything yet. I have no money. I've spent money on supplies. So here it's at +50, so that makes no sense. Well, here 0 is at -15, but I don't have 0 in this table. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to calculate the rate of change, and then I'm going to solve for the y-intercept and see if it matches the y-intercept we think we have. To go from -35 to 5, I'm going to go ahead and add 30. To go from -5 to +25, we add 30. To go from 1 to 3, I add 2. To go from 3 to 5, I add 2. So change in y over change in x. 30 over 2 simplifies to 15. Okay, this looks kind of promising because I have the rate of change I'm looking for. Now I just need to see if I have the right y-intercept. So I'm going to add a sticky note here just so I have a little bit more space. So I'm going to plug in y is equal to 15x plus b. I plugged in what I did know. I have to solve for b. I have to solve for the y-intercept. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to plug in a point. We typically like positive numbers, so I'm going to use positive. So I'm going to plug in 25 for y is equal to 15 times the x there is 5 plus b. Well, 15 times 5 is 75. So 75 plus b is equal to 25. So to solve for b, I'm going to subtract 75 from both sides. So we get -50 is equal to b. Well, didn't we say that that's where we were starting? So that is the table I need. All right. At summer camp, Wednesday decided to teach a class on the basics of potion making. To teach the class, she asked Gomez to buy each of her students a set of books. Gomez paid $17.95 to order a set and one-time shipping fee of $22. Which table represents Gomez's purchase? So one-time shipping fee, that's a starting point. So that's going to be our y-intercept. So y is equal to our rate of change. This is per. Remember, per is a word that tells you rate of change. So $17.95 x plus 22. So here I just need to make sure that I'm following these. So I see that 20 is in all of the tables. So I'm actually going to use the point with 20 because it'll be easier to multiply. So I'm going to check the first table by saying y is equal to, we have $17.95 times 20 plus 22. And I'm going to find which of these tables has the matching y value. So first things first, we have $17.95 times 20. Well, if I multiply any of it by 0, I get 0. 2 times 5 is 10, carry the 1. 2 times 9 is 18, put down the 9, carry the 1. 2 times 7 is 14, plus 1 is 15, put down the 5, carry the 1. 2 times 2 is 2, plus 1 is 3. We have 2 decimal places, so it should be 359. Oh, did I mess up? I think I might have messed. Oh, and then we have to add our $22. I forgot about our y-intercept. So when I add 22, we keep our zeros. 9 plus 2 is 11, carry the 1. 5 plus 3 is 8. So $381, which is J. So all I did to solve this is I took my X value that was in all of the tables and I plugged it in to see which would get me the matching Y value. Number 10, Cousin It is ordering shirts for the Addams family reunion. Cousin It pays a shipping fee of $12. Anytime we have a fee, that's our y-intercept or our b value, because it's a starting point. And then the word each tells us our slope, which is m. So write a function. Okay, this is something that I want everybody to pay close attention to. The word function just means write an equation. All I'm asking you to do here is write the equation. So I have an m and a b, so I'm just going to write an equation in y equals mx plus b, which is slope-intercept form. So y is equal to 7x plus 12. That would be the equation for that one. Number 11, it says determine the constant of proportionality. So here our graph goes through the origin, so we know it's a proportional graph. As we read from left to right, the line is decreasing, so my slope, which is the constant of proportionality, is going to be negative. So to find it, we're going to have a y value divided by an x value. So this is a y value of 1 divided by negative 2. It does not matter where your negative is. It could be in the numerator, it can be in the denominator, it could be off to the side. It's still all going to be negative 1/2. Number 12, Morticia Addams is helping Gomez prepare her children her collection of rare poisonous pumpkins for the family's haunted garden. The number of gardening steps Morticia takes and the number of pumpkins she collects is shown in the table below. Complete the following sentences. So it's asking for the constant of proportionality, and then it's asking for equation. Because I asked for the constant of proportionality, this is telling you I'm looking for K. It's proportional. You could double check that by doing y divided by x and see if it's the same the whole way down. Remember, x is always going to be the first row and y will be the second. So we have 5 divided by 10, that's 1/2. 12 divided by 24, 1/2. 20 divided by 40, 1/2. 28 divided by 56 is also 1/2. So our constant of proportionality, or K, is 1/2. So our equation is going to be y equals kx, and our K is 1/2, so y equals 1/2 x. 13, identify the slope and the y-intercept and write an equation that represents the function in the table shown below. Whenever you have a table, the first thing you're going to do is check to see if it's proportional or not. So y divided by x, 6 divided by negative 4, that would get me negative 3/2. 8 divided by 4 is 2. It's not the same thing, so it's not proportional. So we need change in y over change in x. To go from 6 to 8, I add 2. 8 to 9, I add 1. 9 to 11, I add 2. Negative 4 to positive 4, I add 8. 4 to 8, I add 4. 8 to 16, I add 8. But Ms. Green, they're completely different. That's okay as long as they simplify to the same thing. So 2 over 8 simplifies to 1/4. 1 over 4, change in y over change in x, is 1/4. And 2 over 8 is 1/4. All I did was I took my change in y and change in x and I simplified them. So my rate of change is 1/4. I see that I don't have 0 in the table for x, so that tells me I have to solve for the y-intercept. So y is equal to 1/4 x plus b, okay? So I need to solve for b. I have too many variables, so I'm going to pick a point. Again, we like positive numbers, and plug in. I'm going to plug in 8 for y is equal to 1/4 times 4 plus b. Well, 1/4 times 4 over 1. I see that both of these are divisible by 4. 4 divided by 4 is 1. 4 divided by 4 is 1. And 1 times everything is just 1. So I get 8 is equal to 1 plus b. So I subtract 1 from both sides. 7 is equal to b. So I have my rate of change. I have my y-intercept. My equation is y equals 1/4 x plus 7. All right, last two. Which graph represents a relationship where y is 2 less than 1/2 the value of x? Okay, 1/2 the value of x. That's telling me I need to be multiplied by x, so this should be y is equal to 1/2 x. 2 less, I'm going to subtract 2. So that tells me my y-intercept should be at negative 2. Here, the y-intercept is at positive 2. Doesn't make any sense. Y-intercept's at negative 2. y-intercept is at -2. Here, it might be at -2, but it's kind of hard to tell. So I'm not going to cross this one out just yet. Then we're going to follow our rise over run for our slope. So that tells me I need to go up 1 over 2. So here, I go up 2, and we run over 2, 4, 6. Make sure you pay attention to the scale. So rise over run, 2 over 6 simplifies to 1/3, not 1/2. So that doesn't work. Okay. Here, let's see what we do. I go down 2, and I go over 6. So this is -2 over 6, which would be -1/3. Oh, this is 1/3. My bad. I've read that as 1/2. So positive 1/3, -2, that would actually be that one. I read that as 1/2. That's my bad. It says 1/3. So we go up 1 over 3, up 2 over 6. This is correct. But we can double check here just to make sure. So I have a perfect point here, and we have no other perfect points that we can see. So this one would be really hard to calculate. But it looks like I go all the way up to 10 and only over 4. So that's not going to simplify to 1/3. So it should be C or B, depending on which way you label this. So this is 1/3. So we're looking for the slope rise over run 1/3. So this one is correct. 15, which of the following illustrates the distance Uncle Fester can run over time if the equation D is equal to 3/5 T represents Uncle Fester's run? So distance and time, we said time is always independent, so time is always X. So this is really like 3/5 X is equal to Y. So I'm looking for a proportional relationship where our constant of proportionality is 3 over 5. So here goes through the origin, both of them. So now I just need to check. So here's a perfect point. So I have 10, which is our Y value, over 6, which is our X value. Well, 10 over 6 simplifies to 5 over 3. Not what I need. I need 3 over 5. 12 over 4 just simplifies to 3. So, well, not the constant we need, Y over X. -3 over 5 is -3/5, but I asked for +3/5, so let's hope this one works. We have a Y value of 6 and X value of 10. 6 over 10 simplifies to 3/5. So yes, indeed, that last graph will work.